It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders, and joining us today is Aaron Rodgers. No, it's not Aaron Rodgers. However, it is the man that shot Aaron Rodgers when he was in Pittsburgh. Got a shout out on the Pat McAfee show today. Ed Thompson, how we doing?
Good. How are you guys?
I'm doing good. Alan, how about yourself?
I'm happy, man. I'm in a good mood.
Happy. Should we insert Pharrell Williams? Happy playing in the background here.
No, I'm good.
We have to say we're vindicated. You know?
Yeah, I'm happy for Ed, man. That was a great shot. I'm glad it's getting the
all the people that said, yeah, Aaron Rodgers is in a Malibu in Pittsburgh with Nevada plates on. We can say, well, yeah, we were.
You want to see something really cool? 3, 2, 1. Boom. There it is.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
what we are referencing. There's the shot that we are referencing.
Yeah, what's funny is,
photo. Yeah.
What's funny is that I jumped in front of the road to get that. That is a photographer from the Post Gazette right there. I did not tell anybody that I saw him coming. I'm sorry. And that was it.
There you go.
I mean, like, it's literally as candid as you can get here. And to hear Aaron talk about the experience, like not flying to the airport that everybody would have expected him to, trying to stay as low key as possible, not only like his appearance, but literally making sure he's driving a Chevy Malibu as well. It's all pretty funny.
Where do you find a Malibu in Pittsburgh with Nevada plates on? Like, I mean, that had to be pre-planned.
I don't know. We had heard that he was going to be in town, and you decided to go down there, and you sent me the picture, and we were talking throughout the day, about whether he's still there and that kind of thing, and no one was really sure it was him, but I was pretty sure once I got the picture, and then we found out that the license plate was to a rental car. I was pretty convinced that was him, but it was good to have Aaron confirm it for us. So yeah, fun little steak out there, Ed.
It was interesting.
Well, interesting, I feel like just describes Aaron Rodgers in general, whenever all the conversation surrounding him. So that got brought up today on the Pat McAfee show with Aaron Rodgers joining. Like, said there would be a guest appearance around 1:00, and there was some speculation who it would be. They opened up the show by saying it would be him. So we had like an hour heads up that he would be appearing on there. No clue what he was going to say. Some people speculating retirement. Was he going to pop on there just wearing a Steelers hat and say, this is where I'm going? But for both of you guys, what did you make, assuming that you've seen the appearance on the Pat McAfee show, of what Aaron Rodgers had to say, and seemingly no closer to a decision?
I mean, I think I retweeted and commented on Alan's tweet that he was going to be on. I really thought we would know probably as much as we knew going in. I just thought it was a PR opportunity for him. I wasn't expecting a retirement. I'm playing. I'm not, whatever. But I mean, it's like we were talking just before. The guy is really interesting. I really think he's an interesting guy. I watched the Enigma on Netflix. I thought it was incredible. I was intrigued. I've watched it actually 3 times now. Neat guy. But I mean, who knows what's going to? I truly have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's funny. Before Alan gives his answer here, I remember this was like a couple weeks ago where I used the word predict. And Alan was like, well, that's pretty dangerous to try to predict anything when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah, I agree. I have no clue. I don't feel any closer to what is actually going to happen here. Saying that we think that he's going to eventually end up signing has just been all about seemingly him wanting to continue to play football and there being no other options out there. Alan, did you feel like you gained anything from his appearance on Pat McAfee show?
Yeah, I actually feel like I gained a little bit here. The big thing is that he said he only wants 1 year and he's willing to play for $10 million. I'm sure his agent was unhappy to hear him say that because it's gonna be really hard for him to ask for more than that now that he's on public record saying he'll play for that. But so I think that's definitely one thing that we learned today. I think everything is about money, especially when people will tell you it's not about money. It's still always about money. But I do get the sense that, like, I know that the Steelers made an offer and that there was never any counterplay regarding that offer, that it's not like there's been a request for more or anything like that. And so, like, that tracks with what I've been hearing, that whether it's actually about money or not, Aaron Rodgers has not made money an issue in this negotiation. So, I mean, I think that's like something that he said that I feels like is supported by what I've been told. Mike Tomlin said at the owners' meetings that they had not given Aaron Rodgers a deadline. Aaron Rodgers repeated that today, said he's been in touch with the Steelers. They haven't given him a deadline. So I think we learned, I don't know if we learned that, but we certainly reinforced that as being, now both sides are saying there's no deadline. I think Aaron kind of made some good points about him just saying, look, I'm not holding anybody hostage. I told every team that I've talked to that they're free to move on. I am dealing with some personal stuff, and I'm not ready to make a decision right now. And they know that, and they're okay with that. And there's really, like, I mean, I know people are upset and frustrated by the process continuing to go on, but, like, there's not really a valid counterpoint to that, because there is nowhere to turn to if you are the Steelers right now. There won't be before the draft anyway. And I think most of the ways to turn to quarterback in the draft are probably mistakes. At least more of them are mistakes than not, right? Like, the way this ends up really hurting the Steelers is not they wait around for Aaron Rodgers and he never signs. The way this ends up hurting the Steelers is if they draft Tyler Shook at 21. Like, that's how it hurts the Steelers. Like, I don't think there's any real harm done in saying, okay, whatever, take your time. We're just going to do our thing over here. Shedeur Sanders happens to get into our range, we're taking him for sure, because we're not trusting that your crazy ass is ever coming here. But, like, you know, other than that, I don't see what a better option is, so they may as well. Like, there's no advantage to the Steelers to pushing a panic button or hurrying in any way. And it doesn't seem like Rodgers, for whatever reason, is ready to make a decision. So I guess we wait.
I guess within that, and this is obviously for both of you to give your thoughts, expanding upon that idea with them playing the waiting game, if you don't think that that's a bad route to go, is that more so just because you felt like there wasn't a better option? Was there a misstep along the way, in your opinion? And this is just kind of the point where we're at, or was this always just like, because of the available options, like, it doesn't really matter, this is the path, a perfectly viable path?
You know, it's honestly, it's too hard. It's too hard to say. I wouldn't dare want to say it, especially on a show. I really don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it could go so many ways. You know, it's just.
Okay. So let me simplify this a little bit for you, Ed, and just get your opinion on this. Then, do you feel like they would have been better off re-signing one of Justin Fields or Russell Wilson as opposed to going this route?
No. And like we've, I mean, so go with Justin Fields first. When, the last 5 weeks of practice heading into the postseason, I noticed that Justin Fields was being used even less, even in practice. And on a 4-game skid, when you're losing in the 5th game, that they didn't even, think about going to him. I think the writing was on the wall that they were not going to go with Justin then or in the future. I really didn't think so. Russ was tough. I mean, the leak that they said, with him and Art, I think that was, the nail in the coffin. I really think that was it. I mean, we've heard, from players and stuff like that they really didn't think that he was the right fit for this year. So I really don't think he, I mean, well, they didn't offer Wilson, so that was that. So I think they were looking towards the future. And I don't know if it's drafting a quarterback in the first or, trying to get Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I think that, at the end of the season last year, if we would have said Aaron Rodgers might be a Steeler next year, I think we all probably would have laughed. And here we are waiting for Aaron Rodgers to possibly sign and be a Steeler.
Yeah, there was even one point this offseason where I said, I think that there's a great level of respect between Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin. And maybe at some point in a different universe, they would have worked together, but it's not going to happen. Well, now here we are, and maybe it will. Alan, what's your thought on that, if there was any misstep along the way?
No, actually, I said all along the way I wanted whoever was cheaper, and right now Mason Rudolph is the starting quarterback, so I'm winning. And if Aaron Rodgers is really willing to play for $10 million, then that will be almost certainly the best cheap quarterback they could have possibly gotten. And so, yeah, I mean, I think right now, no, there have been no missteps. I'm nervous about the draft.
Okay.
Nervous maybe, but I think there's the potential for misstep in the draft. And I think the uncertainty about Rodgers is increasing the likelihood of them making a big mistake in the draft. But as of right now, no. I mean, I think I would rather have Rudolph than Fields for what he made. I think they did not want the personality in Wilson. It didn't have anything to do with the player. They were just done with him. And look, maybe if Russ handles things down the stretch differently, we talked a lot in January about like our feeling was that their intention was to go with Fields or Wilson. Well, sometimes it takes some time for those things to percolate to the surface. Maybe people were frustrated with Russ in December, but we didn't really start to hear about it until he did some other stuff in January, and then people are like, "Oh yeah, and by the way, this has also been bothering us for weeks. We just didn't say anything then." It didn't come out until. And so I think, like, when you can kind of look at it with a little bit of hindsight, like, it didn't seem like Russ was ever in the cards. I think they would have liked to have Fields, but only if he was going to be cheap, and he turned out not to be cheap. And they signed Rudolph. And so, if they get Rodgers, I think that'll be better than having Rudolph. If they don't, I think they'll still be okay. And either way, as long as they don't make a dumb decision in the draft, I think they're in good shape to do what they need to do, build the rest of the team, try to quarterback proof it, which is what we've been talking about off season as the real goal of this team. Everyone's talking about, they've completely botched the plan. The plan was to not need a quarterback. Like that's the plan. So if you're only talking about the plan at quarterback, then yeah, it's going to look like they don't know what they're doing. But the plan is to quarterback proof this lineup and then go get a rookie, hopefully in 26. You can't. That's not a sure thing. And, I had people push back on that and say, like, oh, then why bother get Rodgers? Why bother for the upgrade? Like, you can't be one or the other. You can't be both. If you're going to be a team that tries to win, then you got to try to win. If you're going to be a team that's trying to lose, then you got to try to lose. You can't halfway it. And so if you're going to be a team that tries to win, they're always going to be a team that tries to win. Then you go get the better quarterback if you can get him. And if you can't get him, it's not a big deal. He's not that much better. Like, how many more games are they winning with Aaron Rodgers compared to Mason Rudolph? 2, maybe 3, like at the very most 3. Like, okay. Like, it's worth trying, but it's not like the end of the world if it doesn't happen.
And who knows, mate? Up right where he left off. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, different offense, obviously. I'm curious to see what the fit is like with Arthur Smith, but something you said there, Alan, really resonated with me in terms of the draft, just because, again, going back to conversations we would have had a couple months ago is not one that I would have thought that we were going to be having. Like, everything that they were doing at the beginning of free agency in terms of their pre-draft work going back to the Senior Bowl screamed to me, we're taking a shot at quarterback in 26 and, 25 QB class be damned. But as we've gotten closer and you look at the pre-draft interest, who's coming in for pre-draft visits, they've certainly done their homework on the quarterback class more than I anticipated them doing so, which is why I kind of share that level of concern where something could go awry in terms of their draft plans. And if they do something stupid on draft night to compound the QB situation, it would be far worse than them have made a mistake in free agency, because not only are you impacting 2025, you're obviously impacting the future as well. And that's why I've said all along, I'm not even sure that it makes sense to invest in the 25 class, because I don't want them to then think, okay, we're not taking a shot 26 and beyond. Now, if they're going to have a short leash with the guy or whatever, and still be willing to take a shot if they don't see flashes from the guy early on, then that's one thing. But if they're going to have a longer leash with this guy and not get involved in the next few quarterback class and kick the can down the road, I think that's where, again, I think you're compounding the issue.
I think when you're talking about this year's quarterbacks, I think there's room for a guy who you need to develop, right? It's just like, if you draft Jalen Milroe, you're doing so with the idea that he's not going to play this year, right?
Yeah.
If you draft Will Howard, you're probably not like rushing him into the lineup. It's really just like,
and if he ends up being like just a backup, it stops you from paying millions of dollars for a backup every single year. And you got like another, maybe just a younger, less expensive version of Mason Rudolph in the room at the very least.
Ed is the guy who said that Will Howard looks like Mason Rudolph, and I think that is
a really
good comparison.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, he's got that high release. We watched, at his pro day. He really does. I really like him, and I think, I'm not a draft expert, but I think he'll probably be there in the 4th or 5th round, which is a definite possibility.
Okay. Yeah, Will Howard's kind of the guy that I said, like, of course, if I'm making a prediction right now, and actually Alan and I both mock draft that we did yesterday had Will Howard going to the Steelers. I think that's the most likely scenario, is Will Howard as a mid-round pick. And it doesn't prevent you from drafting a quarterback in 26. I think it's like one of those sweet spot picks for them to still get somebody in the room, complete the room for this year, and have a piece going forward in 26. And hey, if he ends up hitting, that's like a lottery ticket that you scratched off and won $100,000 on. But yeah, Alan, any more thoughts on that? Just investing this year, preventing them investing in 26 or anything like that?
No, but I mean, I just think reaching for a quarterback because of the uncertainty is the mistake I'm worried about more than I am just taking one. Like, if Shedeur Sanders is there, fine. That's a good pick. That's not a reach. And like, I don't think that, I think it's fine to have the idea of like, okay, look, the 26 quarterback class looks better. Let's make that the primary plan. But like, it's not enough of a sure thing to pass on or to like decrease your chances this year for. Like, if Shedeur Sanders falls at 21, they got to take him. Like there's no guarantee of you being able to get a quarterback that good again next year. Even in a better class, even with the draft capital and the intention to trade up, like, you can make that the plan, but you got to be flexible enough to see when something good happens. You also need to be patient enough when things aren't going your way in free agency to not make something bad happen.
Alan, what do you make of this coming out? And this is directly related to the quarterbacks, I promise. What do you make of the buzz come about that maybe the Steelers were using pre-draft visits as smoke screens? Do you buy into that at all? Something you've heard? A couple people have sent me some different things.
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean, you're only given 30, so like it'd be kind of hard for me to think. Again, that goes back to if you have like an unlimited amount.
You can use a visit to rule a guy out. You can use a visit to say, you know what, let's just cross this one off. Like, just like those visits don't mean interest, but they are not going to bring someone in that they already know they don't want to draft.
Yeah, sure. No, that makes sense to me. That goes back to like what I was saying in terms of like combine and formals or something like that, where it's like an unlimited amount. Sure, you can have a conversation with somebody.
Yeah,
you're not
really,
really,
at
like
the Senior Bowl, you talk to everybody, right? Like, okay, whatever. That doesn't mean they like them all.
But a pre-draft visit where you're only given 30, I have a hard time thinking that they would just use one of those just for the hell of it. Use the smoke.
Ed, I know you said you wanted to bounce. So you got anything you want to wrap up the Aaron Rodgers conversation with?
We covered it all. I'm glad we got some vindication there.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
well,
I'm
people
glad to
call
see
it-
you get your day in the sunshine here. You do great work for us. Ed is like there aren't a lot of photographers that cover the Steelers every day. I feel really, really lucky to have Ed on our team. Makes my life a heck of a lot easier. And so really glad to see you get the spotlight from this. And yeah, can't wait to do some more.
I appreciate it. It's never a day of work. I know it's tough sometimes. I know we're tired on the road and stuff like that, but it's never a day. It's never work. It's always a passion. So I'm happy to be here.
It's never work, Ed, but tell the people other than at SteelersNow.com where they can find your work, find your social media, all that good stuff.
So on Twitter, X, it is Thompson Photo 12, and that's Thompson FOTO 12. And then High Exposure Photography on Facebook, and TJ Coach Ed 12 on Facebook. And that's really it. I'm pretty limited. I don't do the TikTok and stuff like that. So it's probably my shortcoming. But Twitter and Facebook are my two go-tos. So
kind of following the Aaron Rodgers path on social media as well, limiting yourself on platforms and
There you go.
good stuff, Ed. We appreciate you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, man. Yep. Take care.
Talk to you.
There we have it. Ed Thompson, Steelers Now photographer, talking about his moment in the spotlight, 15 minutes of fame, if you will. And I hope there's another 15 minutes right around the corner for him. Good stuff. Alan, I have a question for you as I was kind of scrolling through YouTube comments here, and I thought this one was a pretty good one going back to continue the draft conversation a week out. As of right now, with the limited draft capital, what would you consider a need that you predict is a box they do not check because of the amount of picks they have?
That's hard to predict.
Yeah.
I think given the pre-draft interest, it's really hard for me to see them not drafting a defensive lineman and a running back. I think you can put those in they will absolutely do that category. Everybody else I feel like is skippable. They don't absolutely need a wide receiver. They don't absolutely need an outside corner, a slot corner, a safety, an offensive lineman. I think
Slot
quarterback.
is my pick, by the way.
Quarterback, I think we'll draft a quarterback too. So I really think they're gonna draft a quarterback, a running back, and a defensive tackle almost certainly, and that'll leave wide receiver, corner, safety as an offensive line, which was only sort of kind of a need anyway. I mean it is, but it's like a future need. It's kind of a luxury pick, right? Especially when they only have 6. I think I'd put offensive line at the very bottom, and then wide receiver, corner, safety kind of all together. Where they'll probably get at least 2 of those 3, but maybe not all of them.
This is a completely different question, but this is awesome, and I love this. I don't know the answer to this, and this is specifically just for you. Berg, sports fan here, said, "Hey, Alan, know that you haven't covered the Steelers for this long. Obviously, maybe you haven't been covering sports in general this long, but at least you'd be able to tell maybe from conversations with your peers in the business. How has social media changed the way that you cover sports?"
Oh, Jesus. Well, all of the ways. I mean, you think about it, social media specifically, I think compared to just sort of the internet in general, I will say I was kind of right on the leading edge of social media being a big deal for reporters. So I think I'm, probably capable of answering that. I just think it's everything, man. You are what your audience is, and I think that is the biggest thing. The biggest change in social media is that the audience used to belong to the newspaper. What's the circulation of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette? That's the audience. Now that's an irrelevant number. The audience is how many followers does your reporter have? And people don't want to just follow the Post-Gazette. They want their news sprinkled in with opinions and personality and things like that. And so they want to go right to the source. And I think in some ways it's allowed for greater creative freedom. It's allowed people the ability to do things on their own without the company behind them. People have Substacks, people start their own websites. Like that would have never been possible back without social media. I think the way we gather our news is now almost all social media. It all, almost all the news that we write on a daily basis is gleaned from social media in one fabric or another. Another big way it's changed is the players have more direct access to the fans. They need us a lot less. The relationships with the players have changed. It used to be if a player wanted to have a good relationship with its fan base, he better have a good relationship with his local media because that was the only way he could get himself in front of them. Now they've got plenty of ways to get themselves in front of them. They don't need us for that. And so I think it's really fundamentally changed, at least at the NFL level. If you're covering, college lacrosse, then they probably need me to get some eyeballs on their product and on their people. But NFL players, especially star players, they certainly don't need that. And so I think it's sort of fundamentally changed the relationships between media and players as well. That's a question that I could talk for 2 hours about, but I think I kind of gave you the hits there anyway.
Let me ask you, when was it? What year was it that you got into sports journal? Like this actually became your career?
So I started doing it in college. It didn't become my career until about 2012, something like that.
Okay. So at that time, and you said you were kind of like at the forefront of the social media aspect of that.
Twitter was still fairly new then.
Yeah.
That was really when it was kind of becoming a thing. And so
I was on my first Twitter account, Smith's the Boy 23, with Michael Jordan, half UNC, half Chicago Bulls AV as my picture.
Maniac. What was the one you had before the one you have now? You were Z Smitty 23?
Z Smitty 23, yeah.
I think that's the first one that we interacted on.
Current iteration, it was created in 2021. But
for a while, I was changing the tag after my name based on the outlet I was working for, and then I just gave up.
Okay.
And went with PGH.
Yeah, and you having PGH is actually the reason that I did that to mine too. I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm gonna do the same. But so in 2012, when you kind of got into the business like full time, became your career, did you ever foresee like this being a thing though? Like being on a podcast, like on YouTube every day, doing a daily show like this?
No. That's a really good point. I think another part of it that's changed is you can't be a one-lane journalist anymore. Used to be you could just be, a TV guy or a radio guy or a print guy, and you would just do that your whole career. I don't really think that's feasible anymore. I think you have to, but I think that's more about the sort of multimedia nature of the internet than it is specifically about social. I don't think that's a social media derived chain as much as it is, some other things.
Yeah, I'm just curious because, like, I would have said, the same thing, just in terms of the way, like, I've consumed sports and the way that I've seen the content space change, like, since I got into it. I'm curious as to what it's going to look like. I've been doing this will be 8 years since I started the other podcast around the 412, and I'm just curious as to what it looks like in another 8 years and how different we go from there. I do want to work one more question here, just because either you hearted this or I did on accident just now as I was scrolling, but we had one from Devin the House here as it relates to the draft. Hey, Alan and Smitty, love the content. As always, do you guys think the Steelers will wait on drafting positions like running back and defensive tackle because of the depth and positional value, and maybe take a corner earlier, since corners usually get paid more and there's more value in taking that early? Because why look at running backs at such a wide range in the draft? When you look at pre-draft visits, a lot of guys there go in second and fourth rounds. I think the same could be said about defensive tackle.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we've talked about this. You have to find where the surplus is. Like, it's one thing to say it's a deep class, but you have to find the place where there are players that would not normally be at that point in the draft that are there because the draft is especially deep. So, like, for example, the one I've given a lot is like last year, Troy Fautanu. Like, that was a really deep tackle class. You're almost never going to sit there in the teens and have a player like Troy Fautanu fall in your lap. Like, that was a place where the Steelers were fortunate because of the depth of the tackle class last year that paid off. This year, I really think the running back class, to me, like, it's day 3. Like, that's where the surplus of running backs is, where, like, you get to the 4th round, there's a lot of good running backs left, where usually it's very picked over. Not to say that Amari Hampton and Travion Henderson and Caleb Johnson and Quinshon Judkins doesn't make a really good, top middle of a draft class, but, like, I think we've seen those guys there before. I think the depth of the running back class is the thing that stands out. I think defensive tackle really is the other way. I think the first 2 rounds, no matter where you're picking in the first 2 rounds, you can find a starting defensive tackle. And that's almost never the case. Like, usually starting defensive tackles get pushed all the way up, top 10 picks for just guys that are like standard starters at that position. And I think you're getting standard starters all the way down to like TJ Sanders and Alfred Collins in the middle of the 2nd round. And so I think the first 2 rounds is where the value is a defensive tackle. I think day 3 is where the value is a running back. But depth doesn't, like, I think they're both very deep classes. Like, if you ask me what I would think, I would say similar things, but it plays out in different ways.
Yeah, and just in terms of the draft in general, I said this take and I got a little bit of pushback on it. I'm curious your thought, like, with the amount of like true first rounders that I feel like are in this class, and there's every chance that a really good player is going to be there at 21 for the Steelers. I think that's going to be the case. But like, how different are they going to be from a player that's like early 2nd? I don't like, if I could not have a first round pick, but have like 4 picks on day 2, I would rather have that.
Yeah, I like the day 2 of this class more than I like the back half of the first round for almost every position other than defensive tackle and wide receiver. Like, those are it just happens to be that's where, sort of what the Steelers need. But that to me is the
that's where there's the drop off from round 1 to 2.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like it. I like the round 2 and wide receivers and D tackles too. I just think the rest of the back of the first round is whereas I think those are strong still at those positions.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. We will be back earlier tomorrow. I get out of work early because of Easter weekend. We'll be recording an episode a little bit earlier and put it out for you guys. I sent a message to DB. Not sure if he'll be on with us. He hasn't responded to me yet, but I've seen him tweeting, so call him out for it because I certainly will. But until then, Alan, tell the people they can find you. Oh, and shout outs to Matthew D and Gary F for subscribing to SN Plus, by the way, as you can see scrolling at the bottom.
Yeah, Matthew Durham and Gary Freeland. Get on the train, man. We're adding to the pool there. I like it. We're gonna do that live stream. We're gonna have to figure it out next week for sure. And then, like Saunders _ PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now is the site's account. Go to SteelersNow.com, read the words so I can get paid. Sign up for SN Plus. And yeah, you'll get some free bonus stuff and the ad free, man. It's like, if you click on our site as often as you should be clicking our site, if you're a regular reader or regular listener to this podcast, it's so worth it to just have the ad free. But we'll do some special stuff for the subscribers too. And of course, you can subscribe here on the YouTube channel. That's free. We got over 15,500. 15.5 Chris Gardocki.
Okay.
15,517.
Yeah, there's several options I could go with here. Not my first favorite Steeler, but one of my favorite Steelers was Mike Wallace. So I would be tempted to go with him, but I'm actually going to go with a little bit more obscure, certainly like a cult hero type receiver though for the Steelers. I'm going to go with Eli Rodgers.
Eli Rodgers, a couple years after, it was like maybe like 2 years after he got cut, just like randomly in the building one day, and I tweeted like, "Yeah, I saw Eli Rodgers at practice today," and everyone was like, "Oh my God, is Eli Rodgers coming back?" Like there was this like groundswell of excitement. I was like, "No, he's just here." You know, it's probably at like doctor's appointment or something. Like
you can see how impactful though, you know, he was that the fan base really adored that guy. Like,
yeah, he was very well liked.
You know, I wouldn't think the fans would have the same reaction for another 17, like a Deion Kane or somebody like that if he was in the building
Anthony Miller.
Anthony Miller, man, injuries, dude. I wonder what could have happened there. But anyways, good stuff. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here. Hit us in the comments with your thoughts, anything that we talked about today, a question for a future episode, all that good stuff. Leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, you'll find us. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do the same thing on TikTok. You can find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. And one last thing I want to mention, because it is 1 week from today, I will be hosting a NFL draft live stream, cross-stream it over here. And I would want to be there if you are a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, which if you're watching or listening to the show, I assume that you are, giving away a couple shirts from my sponsor over at Around the 412 Game Changers. I'm not actually, oddly enough, not wearing one of their shirts right now, but I have like 30 of their shirts and typically wear them. DK Metcalf jersey, and one pretty big surprise. There's a surprise guest as well, but also one pretty big surprise in terms of the giveaway that we're doing that I'm not going to tell you about just yet, but don't miss that. For Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.